The Better Business Analysis Institute
presents the Better Business Analysis podcast with
Benjamin Walsh.
Hello and welcome back to the Better Business Analysis podcast with Benjamin Walsh. And this week on BA Bytes, we are going to follow 10 ways in which you can speed up your requirements capture process. So let's dive into the top 10. Number 1 is to prepare thoroughly. First up, your preparation is your best friend. Before you even start capturing requirements, make sure you understand the scope of the project, the objectives, and the stakeholders. You can gather existing documentation and, if possible, have pre-meetings with stakeholders so you kind of understand where they're coming from, you can understand their expectations, and you can build influence and rapport with these people. Don't underestimate how much rapport is part of the job of a BA. If you prep, it will save you time and reduce the need for rework, and it will ensure that they've already built a little bit of trust for the stakeholders. Number 2 is to use templates and checklists. You should have had some training. If you haven't, then jump online, do one of our courses, and you'll get a bunch of templates. You need to have templates. You need to have checklists, and they are a game changer if you're not prepared. So they provide a structured format that ensure that you're not missing anything. It gives you some guidance by working top to bottom. And whether or not it's a requirements document template, a user story, or use case, having a template streamlines the process and just keeps everything organized. It also allows you to, like I said, follow certain steps and understand the artifacts you're going to produce. Number 3 is to leverage existing requirements. The number of times I've started on a project where I was not the first person to attempt a project. Does that make sense? Where you're brought in and there's already a BA who started it, or, this project had tried to get off the ground and there was a business case written a few times or a PID. There's usually documentation or at least a backstory. So don't reinvent the wheel. Leverage existing requirements from previous projects and industry standards in addition to the work that's already been done. So if there are a set of requirements that are very, very similar for a piece of work that's just gone live, maybe it's a report on a website, your government website, some of the requirements are going to be the same. So there's no point in you re-litigating those, especially your non-functionals. There's also industry standards. I mean, if there's web standards, web accessibility standards, there's already some good checklists for that. Often you can adapt these and fit it to your current project needs, and it saves you time and assures consistency and alignment with industry standards so you don't miss anything. I do this often. I probably don't do it enough because you want to start fresh and you want your requirements to reflect what the customer wants. But I'd have to say, as I get more and more experience and do more and more projects, sometimes the customer, as in the environment you're in, they don't necessarily know what's best in terms of best practice and best standards. So maybe some of those should be sourced externally quickly, and then you should focus on what matters as unique to that customer. Number 4 is to conduct effective workshops. Workshops are a great way of capturing requirements really quickly. Make sure they're well planned and they have a clear agenda. Everyone knows what they're there for. Look up Power Start if you want an idea about doing good agendas. They understand the objectives. You need to use techniques like brainstorming and role-playing, storyboarding, grouping themes together comprehensive requirements in a collaborative setting. And so I'd say you can do it in a room with post-its, a large room, big room thinking, if you've got, say, up to 8 people. If you've got more than that, and I would even suggest over 12 is just too much, you need to break those down into different sessions. Try and use a collaborative tool like Miro or Mural online. It's actually better to do it online if you've got a large amount of people. Or if there's ever a suggestion of hybrid never works. So do online then. if you can't get all your stakeholders in a physical room. But in a room, you can't beat it. And number 5 is to engage stakeholders early and often. So early and frequent stakeholder engagement is critical. I have been involved in many projects where that isn't done, or, you may have had a change manager or you don't have one, or engagement sometimes falls in the middle and isn't done well by the PM. As a BA, you can step into that space, but there's specific skills to do that. If there is no one doing it, just do it. Just put your hand up and start pushing it through. Those regular touch points help clarify requirements. They prevent misunderstanding. They streamline communication. They stop a hierarchy situation from happening, and everyone like referring to documents and what I said on Wednesday the 19th, and having to write down every single conversation you've had. It's a disaster. It's just a time waster and adds no value. So if you're engaging with stakeholders, you won't get to that point. Now, you can use various methods like interviews, surveys, focus groups, right, to get different perspectives as well. So it's not just around having a conversation or a one-on-one. But make sure you do it often. Check in. Product owner meetings should be ideally at stand-ups, but if you're not doing that, then once a week. Number 6 is to utilize visual aids. Okay, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So using visual aids like flowcharts, diagrams, wireframes to capture and communicate requirements is highly effective. Visuals can simplify complex information into like rolling on up. I always say, look, if we just pull this all back up, this is the diagram we're looking at. Let's just focus on the inputs and outputs and black box the middle bit. And it just makes it easier for stakeholders to understand and provide feedback, and especially if you're dealing with different levels of stakeholder with different levels of knowledge. Visual aids are so useful. I know people go on about death by PowerPoint, but I use it as a communication method, not as a presentation method. Number 7 is to adopt Agile techniques. We've talked about Agile a lot, but the spirit of Agile, like some of the methodologies in there, like Scrum, stand-ups, continuous improvement. If you utilize the best bits of Agile, you can significantly speed up the requirements capture process. And so like using user stories, growing a backlog of items, getting feedback loops, allowing for continuous refinement and prioritization of requirements and the culture around it can also speed up what you need to do. Number 8 is to use those collaborative tools, not just in workshops, but also in the delivery side and the design side. So Jira, Confluence, Trello, DevOps. These tools facilitate real-time capture, really important, and communication. So when you're updating it, people can go there straight away. Document sharing, tracking of progress. It makes it easy to capture and manage requirements effectively, but also allow you to be nimble, real-time, and only have to enter the information once. And then for people to be able to source that information through reports, outputs, using the same tool. Number 9, I can't stress this enough, and I keep reminding myself, is to define clear acceptance criteria. Clear acceptance criteria are essential for ensuring that requirements are understood and met. They should be in the word of the user, more simple than the requirement themselves. They can be used in UAT, and they help clarify scope of the requirement. Even though scope should have been defined up front, this really is down to the brass tacks of what you're actually going to get at go live. They provide a measurable way to validate the requirements and whether or not they've been implemented correctly in the eye of the beholder. But it reduces ambiguity and rework, and they're so important. And I've literally just taken some acceptance criterias from requirements I've written, turn them into some users' acceptance testing scripts today. So there you go. And equally, I saw acceptance measures or measures of success, which are acceptance criteria in a statement of work today. So there you go. Really good ways of utilizing that. So if you're not a BA, you can still use these in sales documents as well. And number 10 is to practice effective communication. I say communication so often on this podcast. And it's really, sometimes we've dug into that a bit about what communication means. What I mean here is that effective communication not only is the cornerstone of any successful requirements gathering process, and it's about being clear, concise, and open to feedback. Active listening and empathy go a long way in understanding stakeholders' needs and ensure that requirements are captured accurately. So be a great communicator. So that's 10 tips to speed up your requirements capture process and make your projects more efficient. If you've enjoyed listening to this episode, share with your friends, add a review or a comment at the bottom of the podcast, and I'll see you next week.